can be reduced, tremendously. And this is the reason why it suddenly becomes doable, because otherwise you would have the competition between the vehicles and the electric system. And if you don't have a stable electric system, our society doesn't work. Without electricity, nothing works on our planet. You probably cannot even buy a chewing gum without electricity. So this is one crucial aspect. We think with a tremendous move towards electric mobility, we can solve mobility and thereby solve that entire system. When I talk about electric mobility, everybody has a picture before his mental eye. What do I see? Well, that's electric mobility. Light rail. That's electric mobility. Long distance travel. That's electric mobility with cable. And it's not a new invention. It's been around, for 100 years. And you could even make it very science fiction-like. This is not a trolley, this is a bus running on rubber wheels, but being powered more or less like a light rail. And yes, we can, get more inventive and find technology that is even more suitable for a city or certain types of cities or uses. But with cable, electric mobility is no problem for the last 100 years. You should not ignore that. There are solutions with no cable, as I would call them. And they might look the same. This is a trolley from Nizza, where they have put in some batteries because in the old town they did not want to have all these lines, ruining the tourist view. So they have some batteries where this light rail can travel those short distances. They're not long. Those short distances on batteries. During the Olympic Games in China, nobody recognized that, but there was a fleet of 400 electric vehicles operating on a daily basis during the Olympics. And I think 40 of them have been big buses like this with battery swap stations. You can build that. And you can build trucks. This is a truck that is operating in London. Because of the city charge that you have, they switched to electric trucks and you can do deliveries inside the short distances very easily. We overlook this type of electric mobility. Today, 10 to 20 million electric two-wheelers are being sold in China every year. Try to find an electric bike in Germany. Well, yeah, if you look very hard, try to get an electric scooter. The authorities that are responsible for regulating them have never seen them. They don't know what to do with them. You have to explain it to the technicians from the regulation industry that this is not a gasoline motorcycle, this is an electric motorcycle, and no, you do not need to test the engine at the exhaust because it does not have the exhaust. There is no combustion. So, in terms of two-wheelers, Asia is not the developing part of the world. This is the part of the world that we really desperately need to learn from. And you can imagine that a country like Germany, that is ruled by the automotive industry, is looking down on China, saying, what do they know? We have invented the combustion engine. But that's like with the mobile phone. Africa did not went through all the trouble of laying out landlines. Africa went straight from having nothing but a firewood and having some smoke signals. They went straight to the mobile phone and money services over the mobile phone that are even unknown in Europe. This is called leapfrogging. And in terms of electric mobility, there's a lot that we should learn from them, like battery swap stations. Now, I've included some very, I hope, controversial slides because we get these problems even in Germany when people say, yeah, but electricity is not good. No, don't use electricity. Don't put them in the bike. That's bad. When you are living in a hilly city, there are so many people that are not willing to drive a bike because it's way too, problematic for them. If you ride in a suit and tie and you don't want to enter the office just totally, soaked in sweat, the bike is not an option. But when you put electricity into the bike, suddenly a lot of the trips, a lot of the mobility that was unthinkable for many people, maybe some with knee injury or whatever, suddenly becomes possible. Now, is it really bad to use electricity in mobility? I've given you a rough introduction. I've given a long talk on that, and if you want to see all the slides, you can look them up in the internet. But I've given a long talk at the Taipei Cycle Show last year, and they asked me to calculate the numbers for that. And now if you compare the same bike, it's exactly the same bike. But one has electric capability built in, so that's an e-bike, and one is a traditional touring bike. And since the additional battery and technology makes the bike a little heavier, you need a little bit more energy to travel at the same speed. Okay, so there is a downside. But when both are traveling at the same speed, and you then look at the system, you have the human body, the muscle energy system, which has an energy efficiency of 25%. The less is heat, so this is why you're sweating, because of the heat. And even in the worst case, we just said 70% is the efficiency of the electric system. It can go up to 80, maybe even with today's high-end technology, we could go even higher, but let's say we take the low cost, 70%. And then we look at the energy demand when we go 100% electric and then we go with food. You see that the amount of energy that you need for the same amount of travel suddenly increases. Okay, so that's the energy part. Now what about CO2 emissions? When you calculate the CO2 emissions for typical German and I would say Western European food, so with all refrigeration, fertilizers and all the agricultural stuff that we do, and we even went back and said, well, don't take the worst case, let's take the best case. So we went for eco-food. So the official numbers that in the German statistics are used for eco-food production. Then you end up with 1,500 grams of CO2 per kilowatt hour of food energy. Now when you go to coal, you only have 1,100. In the worst case, brown coal, the really dirty stuff. Now, when you do the calculation, you end up with something between 30 to 40 grams per kilometer on a bike of additional emissions because of all the oil that goes into food production. It's not what you breathe out. That's not calculated.